Shalawama, Shalawama, Islam to all the Moors. We're on Aries chapter, not chapter, but the second video. The second video, Aries coming out of the Gospel and the Zodiac. Shalawama, Shalawama, Islam. Hold on, y'all. Aries. Uh-oh. Wait a minute. Hold on. Hold on. All right. Okay, looks like our connection is good, so let's go ahead and get started. A moment. All right, so here we are. Take a look at the book, The Gospel and the Zodiac, the secret truth about JC, the Christ figure. These are not my ideas. They're not mine. This is based upon the book and the work of Reverend Bill Darlison. The link to the free PDF is in the description area of the video. We're on page 55. We're coming out of Mark chapter 1 to Mark chapter 3, verse 35. Take a look at it. So get your books out, open your books up. We're going to start at Aries and Mars. Aries and Mars, y'all. Like and share the video. Let your family and friends know that we're about to get started. If you stay longer than 5 minutes, like and subscribe to the channel, okay? Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it. Y'all see my videos are only reaching, the last two videos I did, I think 14, 15 people. So you see that this information is being shadow banned. Clearly, someone doesn't want you to know. All right, so let people know that we are live with this information. Why would they shadow ban this information? I'll tell you why. Because once you learn this information, that the Gospels are astrotheology or astrology, right? I'm not talking about stuff you read in the newspaper, spooky, hocus pocus type of stuff. I'm talking about the science, cosmology, astrology, all right? Once you get exposed to this information, it will make you rethink your beliefs, your lifestyle, your character, whether you're honorable or dishonorable, right? So the Devil's Pulpit, that author showed you verses, which I brought to your attention, I presented it to you, that shows you that the Gospels are in fact pushing poor character. All right, pushes poor character. Okay, so let me see how I look on screen. So anyway, let's get started. So what I'm trying to say to y'all is help to get this information out. Put it on your social media page, send it to people in messages, and don't be scared. Don't be scared. All right, don't be scared. When the vernal equinox occurs around March 21st of each year, and the sun enters the sign of Aries. The sun does not physically enter the sign of Aries. The sun is in the house of Aries, or the mansion of Aries, meaning to say that Aries is in front of it. Okay, so you look at the sun from on Earth, right? And beyond the sun, you see Aries. The sun is in Aries, not physically in the constellation Aries, all right? Okay, so let's continue. When the vernal equinox occurs around the 21st of March each year, the sun enters into the sign of Aries. A new optimism enters human consciousness. In other words, people become positive thinking. they start to feel positive. The bleakness of winter is past. Okay, bleakness of winter is past. So we all know that when it's dark and cold, people become depressed. They also become sick, right? Because you got to close all the windows in the wintertime. So, you know, the pathogens are floating around. Y'all just passing them from one person to the other, okay? The house is a closed system at that point. Springtime comes, you open the windows. Sunlight's coming in. People start to feel better. The depression goes away because you get more sunlight. When it's dark, you're not going to get enough sunlight if you're a male to produce sufficient vitamin D, right? So that can lead to some illness over time. But anyway, this is what the author is talking about. So never let someone say that the moon or the sun, these energetic effects don't or do not have an effect on your personality and your physical health. They absolutely do. As the daffodils, bloom, daffodils, I can't believe I just said that. Daffodils. So I haven't seen that word in a long, long time. That's daffodils. As the daffodils bloom and new buds of life appear, nature herself seems to have found new hope. In the Northern Hemisphere, where systematic astrology was developed, light has begun to triumph over darkness. Y'all got that? So in the Northern Hemisphere, okay, the Northern Hemisphere, this is where systematic astrology was developed. Light has begun to triumph over darkness. So in wintertime, the darkness defeated the light, right? In other words, darkness reached its maximum number of hours, and the light or daylight hours were at their minimum through the course of the year. So darkness defeated the light in the winter, and then the light begins to triumph over darkness in spring. The days are getting longer. Okay. Light has begun to triumph over darkness. The day over night, life over death. All right now, so hibernating animals are starting to wake up. Plants are starting to what? Blossom. They're getting fertilized and more plants are growing. It's warmed up, so now animals are beginning to mate and produce the next generations, all right? So the next generations are appearing, okay? Renewal, the earth is renewing the life forms, okay? So life is beginning to triumph over death, whereas in the winter, the fall and the winter, death began its triumph over light until it reached its climax in the winter. All right, springtime is a time of renewed energy, of new beginnings, when, as Kasser observed, quote, folk long to go on pilgrimage. Okay, so now it's time to travel. Springtime is here, we can get out of the house, let's go somewhere. The sun is coming up, there's more heat energy, more sun energy, people feel more positive, right? Okay, that's what's happening. Okay, now let's go somewhere, right? Let's go to the beach, let's go here, let's go there. We've been locked up, cooped up in the winter. I mean, in the house all winter. The struggle of new life to establish itself in the midst of death and decay characterizes the sign of Aries. All right, so the struggle of newly born plants and animals, their struggle to grow up, survive, and mature, and have offspring themselves. Okay, so this is what the author is talking about. The struggle of new life to establish itself. That means survive. You establish yourself, where animals establish themselves by surviving, learning to survive. Some ain't gonna make it. Okay, but the population as a whole learns to survive, therefore it is established in its environment. Okay, all the while death and decay that was occurring in Aquarius, well, that's still occurring around it, right? It's just reached its climax, and now it's beginning to wane down, and the transition is occurring. In the midst of death and decay characterizes the astrological sign called Aries. The deity's creative activity was associated with Aries in the ancient world, and some early authorities considered that the earth was created when the sun was in Aries. Y'all got that? The earth was created when the sun was in Aries. This is what a lot of scholars say, but I would argue against that. I would argue that there was no beginning. If you can get your mind around this, maybe I shouldn't tell y'all this. I'm going to hold it. I'm not going to tell it. I'll tell it in class. You want to know that? Come to class, 506, the curses course. The link is in the description area of the video. And I may not tell you the first time I see you. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Okay, I may not tell you the second time. I may not tell you during your free period. You can come twice for free. I may tell you if you enroll. I don't know, it just depends on the situation. Okay, but what I will tell you will change your life if you understand it. Completely change your life and your perspective. All right, so let's continue. Alba Macer, writing in the 9th century, but no doubt reflecting a much older tradition, says that creation took place when the 7 planets. So here are the list of the 7 planets. The sun, the moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Let me read them again. The first is the sun. Second, the moon. Mercury, the third. Venus, the fourth. Mars, the fifth. Jupiter, the sixth. And Saturn, the seventh. Okay? So they're listed according or in the order of their distance from the sun. All right? All right, let's continue. Okay. So this guy, Albamaster, what a name, says that Earth was created when the sun was in Aries, right? When did he say it? In the 9th century. What he says reflects the much older tradition that says that the creation took place when the 7 planets that we just listed were in conjunction in Aries. So all of the 7 planets were in conjunction in Aries. So why is that? So the author is making the point that all of the planets were in Aries because this is birth or rebirth, regeneration. A belief reflected in Dante's Inferno, where we learned that the sun was mounting with those stars that with him, those stars that were with the sun, okay? The sun was mounting with those stars that with him were what time, the love divine, okay? At first in motion set those beauteous things. Now I need to think about that. Quote, the sun was mounting with those stars that with him were what time, the love divine, at first in motion, set those beauteous things. So love divine, I guess is this the deity, set it in motion. He put all of the planets in Aries, okay? Well, in conjunction. They were all in conjunction in Aries and created the earth. This is what he's saying. To the Egyptians, the constellation Aries was known as Arnam, meaning the Lord of the head. The head is the beginning, right? And to the Babylonians, Aries was known as Luhanga, meaning the hired man. This is a quotation from Champion, page 17. Among the Hebrews, Aries was probably associated with the tribe of Reuben. Get that? The 12 tribes. They're associated with the 12 constellations. Aries is associated with the tribe of Reuben. No doubt, because, and those are my own words, okay? Aries was probably associated with the tribe of Reuben, called by Jacob, my firstborn. So there it is. My might and the beginning of my strength. So that's Aries, right? Aries will give birth to new life, new generations, and or renewal. Okay, that's Genesis 49:3. As we have seen in the forgotten language of the stars, y'all need to read that. Judaism began when the equinox, quote unquote, passed over. When the sun approached the celestial equator, which is a projection of Earth's equator out into space, when it passed over, that means the sun is coming up from the southern part of space. The sun passes over the celestial equator. The sun passes over the celestial equator. Y'all got that? That's what's happening. All right, so Judaism began according to, let me read this again. As we have seen in the forgotten language of the stars, Judaism, this is the religion, not the bloodline of people, that's the religion, which began shortly after Babylonian captivity. Jeremiah 8, verse 8, Judaism began when the equinox passed over from Taurus the bull. This is the golden calf that we saw, Yasharala worshiping, to Aries. Judaism, according to this author, began when the equinox passed over from Taurus to Aries. This occurred around 2000 BCE. And many images within the defining stories of the Jewish scriptures, such as the ram caught in the thicket by Abraham, Moses' burning bush, Moses's burning bush, the lamb of sacrifice, the wilderness wanderings reflect this constellation called Aries. Okay? According to the author, all of that is astrology. Okay? All of that is astrology. So how can we deal with this? How can we deal with this? Step one, we have to look at it within the context of Jeremiah 8, verse 8, right? Our ancestors wrote lies into the law. They created religion. Okay? Astrotheology. And then hid it. They hid it by editing stories or just adding whole new stories and deleting information. Okay, so let's take a look at this again. As we have seen in the forgotten language of the stars, y'all can read more about this spring, March, sometime March 19th, 2021, maybe 22. Every year, you go outside at sunrise, 5:30, 5:45, or whatever it is in your morning. Here's the horizon. Here's the horizon. Look over to the east. In the backdrop toward the east, this is the horizon. This is the backdrop toward the east. When the sun comes up over the horizon, in the backdrop, you see Taurus, the constellation Taurus, with the zodiac sign Taurus. Okay, so here's the celestial horizon, which is a projection of Earth's. Let me repeat that. Here is your horizon coming up. The sun is rising. This is your risen Savior. 5:30, 5:40 in the morning. Here's the sun coming up. Behind the sun in the backdrop, there's Taurus, the zodiac's sign called Taurus. All right. The transition occurred from Taurus being in the background to Aries being in the background, according to the author, around 2000 BCE. Let me make sure that date is right. Yeah, that transition occurred around 2000 BCE. So here's your horizon. All right. Here's the sun coming up, 2000 BCE, 5:30, 5:40 in the morning. Sunrise, sun coming up over the horizon. In the backdrop or behind the sun, you see Aries in the east. The zodiac sign Aries in the east. Is it clear? So now we're in, according to people who follow the zodiac, we are in the zodiacal age of Aries, or the age of Aries. Y'all got it? Is it clear? All right. So here we go again. As we have seen in the forgotten language of stars, Judaism began when the equinox passed from Taurus to Aries, somewhere around 2000 BCE. And many images within the defining stories, that's the important stories, those stories that make Judaism what Judaism is, okay? And many images within the defining stories of Judaism, or of the Jewish religion, the Jewish scriptures. Okay, so what are these images? One, the ram caught in the thicket by Abraham. Okay, the ram caught in the bushes. Okay, that's Aries. Aries, a ram. Moses burning bush. So why is it that Moses burning bush is Aries? Why is that, y'all? The lamb of sacrifice. Okay, so lamb, that's obvious, right? Lamb of sacrifice, that's Aries. Okay, the wilderness wanderings. Now, why is it that the wilderness wanderings represent Aries? Well, the wilderness wanderings, this is the House of Yasharala exiting one land, one system or way of life, right? Exiting and preparing to enter into another, and that was the promised land. A lot of people got knocked off, bumped off too, didn't they? According to the story, during that transition. A lot of people got bumped off, right? They got expired for various reasons during that transition. Okay, so all of those events reflect the constellation called Aries. It was when the sun was in Aries during the month of Abib. Abib is a word meaning spring. Okay, when the sun is in Aries during Abib or spring, that the Exodus took place. Well, there you go, y'all. The Exodus took place during spring or Abib. That's Exodus chapter 13, verse 4. There you are. And thereafter, This was to be the first month. So spring is the first month of the Jewish calendar, consistent with astrology. Or let's just call it the natural year. The first month of the year is Abib, or begins in the spring, Exodus chapter 12, verse 12. Later, the name of the month was changed to Nisan, and it still marks the beginning of the ecclesiastical year in Judaism. There you go, y'all. Although it is the 7th month of the civil calendar. Y'all got that? Nisan is the 7th month of the Jewish civil calendar. All right? But it is the beginning of the ecclesiastical year, or the religious year. Y'all got that? Isn't that interesting? The religious year begins at the time when the astrological or natural year begins, whereas the civil year does not. All right? Make of it what you will. Let me check. Hold on, y'all. I got to check. I've got to check the time. While I'm doing this, let me check if you have any comments. All right. So y'all make sure y'all put some comments in the chat section too, so the video can get some traction, or share it. Y'all should see that the last couple of videos that I've posted, they say, I think last time I looked, 14, 15 views. So it's being shadow banned. So y'all do what y'all can to get this information out. All right. Like and share the video too if you've been here more than 5 minutes. Subscribe also if you find this information interesting. If you've been here longer than 5 minutes, it must be interesting. So like it, share it, and subscribe. All right. So let's continue. Like all the signs which mark the equinoxes and the solstices. Now we went over this before. Equinoxes, 12 hours of day, 12 hours of light. All right. At each point, twice a year. Solstices, summer solstice, winter solstice. All right, once a year. Sun is at its maximum place in its orbit in the north, its lowest place in its orbit in the south. Draw a straight line from the summer solstice to the winter solstice. At the opposite end of that line, you'll find who? The prince of darkness, the devil. Why? Because the winter solstice occurs when the day, or when the dark hours have their maximum, December 21st, 22nd. So people steal and commit crimes in the dark. All right, the dark can be a scary time. Try going outside at 2, 3 in the morning and there's no lights. Maybe you'll feel safe, but many people won't, right? Prince of darkness, opposite end of the line. Therefore, opposite is opposer. Opposer is what? Hashatan, Satan. Summer solstice. This is the Christ. This is the highest level of spiritual, which is the breath of life, breathing, the art of living, and intellectual life. This is the higher self and the lower self. Winter solstice, higher self. Summer solstice, higher self. Winter solstice, lower self. Y'all got it? Then you have, at the equinoxes, you have both covenants, right? You have the covenant of labor in the spring, the vernal equinox, and the covenant of grace in the fall, where you get your harvest. You make everything that you want to make, wine, whatever you need, you got it. It's time to party, right? 12 hours of daylight, 12 hours of night. This is where the concept of justice or equality, equity comes from. So any point after, or that's not on the equinoxes, this is the equinoxes. So any point that's not on them is considered what? Inequity, sin, right? In other words, unequal number of daylight and nighttime hours. This is where the concept of inequity and sin comes from. All right, and your two covenants, covenant of work, covenant of labor, and covenant of grace. Let's continue. Like all the signs which mark the equinoxes and the solstice, we went through it. Aries is a cardinal sign, a sign of initiatory action, of enterprise, and of leadership. There's your cardinal sign. All right. 12 hours of daylight, 12 hours of night, work. Beginning of a new season. Okay. It and rebirth and regrowth, etc., etc., etc. Aries is also a fire sign. Well, there's your answer. This is why the story about Moses and the burning bush is Aries, because Aries is a fire sign. Y'all got it? With all the qualities and adore, the love, combativeness, and vigor that this connotes. There you go, y'all. The glyph of Aries depicts the horns of the ram, the aggressive, combative leader of the flock. It is also suggestive of the springing winter. Let me repeat that again. It is also suggestive of the springing water, not winter, water. Spring water, spring water. The source of all life and growth, which transforms the wilderness and brings vitality and health. So now let's make another correlation. Again, the Hindi deity rain. The concept of the Father comes from the rain that falls down from the sky, from the atmosphere. It falls onto Mother Earth. The man's sperm enters into the woman's uterus, where it meets an egg and it plants itself on the wall of the uterus, and it begins to divide and grow. And then 9 months or so later, baby comes out. The rain comes down from the sky, from heaven, comes in contact with Mother Earth, comes in contact with the seed, an apple tree, pear tree, grass, a rose bush, any type of vegetation. And then that vegetation already on the soil or in the soil begins to spread roots and plant itself into Mother Earth's womb. Depending on what type of vegetation it is, when it reaches when it's ready, it's going to come up. It's going to sprout up, born on the surface of the earth. Rebirth, renewal, regeneration. And then the animals are going to come, man is going to come and get some of that vegetation and eat it, right? And then the predators are going to find animals to eat. Hopefully they don't eat you. And then the earth renews itself. This is what the author is talking about. Manilius, a near contemporary of Mark's, that's Mark, the guy who, the claimed author of the book of Mark, they lived at the same time, tells us that those with Aries prominent in their nature are cursed with ravenous tempers and go where fancy takes them. Okay, so they're compulsive. You get mad and you just do anything, right? Fly off the handle. This is Aries. And go wherever their fancy takes them, they fly off the handle, plowing new seas and making the new world on their own. In other words, they get angry, talk a lot of trash, hurt a lot of people, get hurt themselves, destroy relationships, because nobody want to deal with them. They got to do everything on their own. That's what he's talking about. Astrologers have not changed much in their assessment. Isabel Pagan, writing in 1911, has this to say about Aries type. He is the captain, the leader, pioneer among men, going out in sympathy to a new thought, rapidly assimilating fresh ideas, always in the van of progress in whatever kind of work, intellectual, artistic, or practical. That means working with your hands. The Aries man or woman, okay, is going to display that type of leadership behavior. He's the leader, the captain, the pioneer. He's the guy who's going to try it first, do it first. Step on you if he needs to or she needs to. All right, gets new ideas and brings them together, sees them in fresh new ways, strikes out on his own because don't nobody want to work with him. He don't know how to play fair. Okay, so Aries, this guy, okay, he gets close quarters in his battles. And when highly developed, the Aries guy fights best with his head. So he's a cerebral person. He's going to think to fight you. That is to say, in the field of thought, Aries guys really enjoy facing and overcoming difficulties and will go out of their way to challenge opposition. This is the astrologer Pagan on page 6. So these guys might be what? Guys who might take the time, or women who might take the time to learn civics so they can fight you in law. Did y'all hear what I just said? Fight you in law. Okay. Good contemporary examples of this Aryan tendency tend to, quote, challenge opposition, end quote, are not hard to find. Ian Paisley, born 6 April 1926, is adept at presenting both his religious and his political opinions in pugnacious style. In October 1988, protesting at the Pope's visit to the European Parliament in Strasbourg, he thundered, "This is the battle of the ages which we are engaged in. This is no Sunday school picnic. This is a battle for truth against the lie, the battle of heaven against hell, the battle of Christ against the Antichrist." That's on page 4 of a work called Cook. All right, so there we are. Secular Aryans can be equally confrontational. Daniel Dennett and Richard Dawkins, Darwin's later day companions, Darwin, okay, that's the evolution guy, see themselves as combatants in the war of science against religious obscurantism. I don't know the word. Y'all look it up because I need to go. It's time for me to go. So I'll finish this up. It shouldn't take more than 5 minutes, y'all. All right. Put something in the chat. Like the video. Here we go. Oh, Dennett, a neurologist and an intrepid Atlantic sailor, has, according to the article in the Observer Review published March 12, 2006, called out some of the biggest beasts in the academic jungle and has never once taken a step back. Dawkins, too, is always up for an intellectual fight. They were both born at the end of March. Daniel's 28th of March, 1942, and Dawkins, 26th of March, 1941. Now, for me, that doesn't mean anything, right? Because there are billions of people. You'd have to do statistics over a significant population to see if this means anything. So take it with a grain of salt, y'all. There is something refreshingly unrefined, childlike even, about people who are strongly Aryan. They seem to have a desire to strip things down to their bare essentials, coupled with an inability to tolerate too much ambiguity or ambivalence. All right, that means don't go hemming and hawing, not knowing what you want, not being a straight shooter. Don't go like that around them. They don't want to hear that. All right. So let's continue. To them, things are very much black or white with few gray areas. The ruler of Aries, the planet which is most obviously associated with Aries and which shares its characteristics, is Mars, the red planet. So note, Mars is the ruler of Aries, the red planet, unanimously identified by the ancients as the harbinger of war. Mars is the harbinger of war and destruction. Its glyph, okay, y'all gonna have to look at that yourself because I gotta go soon, which shows the cross of matter dominating the circle of spirit. Oh, that's what that is. Okay, so the cross of matter dominating the circle of spirit is suggestive of aggression and power and has been adopted almost universally as the symbol of masculinity. Now y'all can see why the Exodus took place during spring, right? Right? The alleged destruction of Pharaoh's army. Ptolemy gives the following list of positive martial qualities. Okay, so people who are Aries are said to be noble, commanding, spirited, military, versatile, power, virtuesome, keen, headstrong, active, easily angered, with the qualities of leadership. This is according to Ptolemy, page 353. So that completes this video. Join us within the next 12 to 24 hours for number 3 in this series of Aries. We'll begin on page 57 with the spiritual lessons of Aries. Now, if y'all like what we do, remember that at Zion Law School, the primary thing that we do is teach Ancient Ibaryath. So if y'all want to have our own produced, published copy of the Book of the Law, then support it with your Federal Reserve notes. Send in your donation, your gift, whatever you want to call it. Send it in so that I can begin the process of translating the Book of the Law back into Ibaryath and into English so that you can see what it really, truly says. No deceptions, all removed. No mythology, I'm going to remove it all. Okay? Absolutely no Jeremiah 8:8 occurrences. No lies. I'm removing it all. So support the project. I cannot do it by myself. I need your support. Islam to all the Moors, Shalom to the entire House of Yasharala, and all of the other families of Moors. Genesis chapter 2, Moors, the rightful heirs.